Hello, good afternoon. I am going to give it just a second here. It kind of takes a minute. There's usually a little delay here, but I am here with my girl, Meredith, and I'm so excited. This has been really fun. You know, I went live, I think, 2 Saturdays ago with Christine, and we're doing more of the Coach's Corner stuff. And like, it's just, it's nice for me because, I'm the face, obviously, but I really like to take the others, stories and plot them in and have the audience, have an opportunity to see, you know, those that are just like in the trenches too, like not just my stories. Cause I feel like not that they're, not to discredit them in any way, but I feel like they're just like, man, they get old. I repeat them all the time, and I'm just like, we need more juicy juice in here. So anyway, I am just rambling to get this party started because sometimes it takes a hot minute for people to jump in. And if you are here, #live. If you're here for the replay, #replay, and tell me where you're watching from. I am streaming only to the community today, and also to where am I also streaming? Oh, I'm doing YouTube. So I am on YouTube now. I should probably start addressing that. So I just recently opened up a YouTube channel. So I should start actually mentioning that. Anyway, so I am here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm here with my girl, Meredith, and so what are we doing? Oh yeah, welcome to the Financial Fixer community. This is the Coach's Corner. And I am Amanda Delaney, the Financial Fixer, and I'm the founder and CEO of Financial Fixer, also a podcast host for Financial Fixer Podcast, keeping it aligned there. We're not straying away from the brand, as you can see. So, and I want to welcome Meredith Coviello Felice. First and foremost, you're my friend.
Yes.
You're my friend, right? You're also my client. And you're also my biz bestie. And I have to be 100% on the reels here. You are my personal healing coach. And that's a fact. Like, I utilize you, there's no question, in my own healing. And because that's what this is all about, is about not just financial healing, but just like healing all around and wellness, right? So if you can, tell the audience a little bit about you and, how you've come to be today here with me, and maybe a little bit also about what we've accomplished together so far.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Amanda, for having me. I mean, everything that you said, we are definitely friends first, but we are on this journey of all of the things, bettering our lives together. And I am so grateful. Like, I don't even remember life pre you. It's just been so transformative and helpful. Like Amanda said, I'm Meredith, and I am a healing coach. Technically, I'm like a certified soul purpose life coach, but I have really pivoted into the healing aspect of it all. In 2020, I lost my husband unexpectedly at the age of 31. And in the past, 2 years, I mean, a little bit longer, but at least since his death, I've just really been on my own journey of healing, both myself, working my way through the wounds of losing him. And, it's a constant process. I'm never going to be 100% healed, because loss is something that you can put a Band-Aid over, and, the scab, it's always going to be there. The scar will always be there. But I can use this experience and this opportunity to move myself forward. And that is now what I am helping other women do, whether it's a loss like mine, or it's a loss of self, loss of a child, a friend, a pet, just general loss in terms of what we've all been going through with the pandemic the past few years. I'm here to help ease some of that pain, and then also take that pain and help it fuel you, help it find a purpose, both in yourself and in your life.
I love that. You actually, I think loss of self is like a really big one. Whether you've gone through like a major tragic thing like you have, you yourself, and I've been through tragedy. I've lost family members that were babies. I have lost a close cousin of mine. I've got a couple family members that are on the brink of dying any day, to be perfectly honest. So this is a real thing. I lost 2 pets last year, and you know how, I mean, you've healed me a little bit through that. And, it's, you mentioned it a little bit in your little intro there about it's different for everyone. This, you can see one person going through the loss of a child, and the way that they act can be completely different from the loss, someone else that's lost a child, for example. And it's almost like feels weird, like that's strange, but a person copes and deals differently. And whether it's, like the right way, there's no right way or wrong way. I think that ultimately we just need assistance. And unfortunately, many of us don't ask for it. I should have asked for assistance in my healing 10 years ago, like over a decade ago. And I am like really sorry that I didn't, because I put people in my life through things that, because of my own lack of, coping and getting better. Right. So I really think what you're doing is super important. And when you were live the other day, you did a workshop for the Academy, and I was just like, oh my gosh, yes. And I was like literally like writing everything down. I was like, it just felt so necessary, like just necessary to take the steps. We talk about finances here, and we talk about taking the simplified steps and the actions to get to the next level in our finances. But, like with anything that we want to do better at, even with healing or, going through grief or loss, it's a process of getting better and actually taking steps. So let's pivot a little bit. So we've been working together in about like 4 months now, I think.
Yeah.
In the personal finance arena, also healing. But I just want you to tell the audience, like, what's one change that you've made in the way that you manage your money, or something to do with your financial life or your blueprint, that you can say is completely different than what you've done before, like 4 months ago?
Yeah. Whew. 4 months ago, I, had been telling myself, or I had really prescribed myself to the story of, I'm not good with money. I'm never going to be able to stick to a budget. I am not the person who should be in charge of my own finances. Like, you name it, there was a lot of negative self-talk. And, since we started working together, I am by no means perfect. I still have a lot of work to do, but I am able to look at my finances, and there's still some anxiety there, but the amount of anxiety, the amount of stress associated with money has dropped off significantly. I can look at my budget. I can look at, everything that I put into the Everyday app, and I feel more in control, and I'm more likely to call myself out of, I think when we met last week for our check-in, I was like, yeah, I just feel like money's just been flying out of my account, and I'm not sure why. They were all like necessary purchases, but even 6 months ago, I would have just been like, okay, money's gone, let me see how I can ignore it and move forward. And now it's more like, okay, that money's gone. What did I do? Okay, those things did need to be spent for whatever reason. So what can I do moving forward to not find myself in that position again, or to not have it be so severe? Because again, I keep reminding myself this is a process. I'm not going to get it immediately. I do have debt that I have to work out of. So it's just, what can I do every day to make things a little bit better?
Yeah. No, and I mean, you're definitely doing that. I mean, the truth is that and when we met the last time, you really did have your thumb on the pulse, regardless of how you felt. Like, there's still going to be that anxiety there. There's still going to be like that concern and worry, because again, you're in the beginning stages. It's almost like, my therapist told me the other day, I love how I mentioned my therapist because I'm actually proud of it, but she said something about, you can't feed a newborn baby steak, right? And when you're in the infancy stages of something, as you are, right? I mean, I'm an infant still in business. Okay. I mean, I'm barely like, crawling, right? And you just can't expect for all of it to be fixed right away. Now, what you are doing is taking those tiny actions on a daily basis in a consistent manner, which is causing you to form new habits, right? And what happens when you form those new habits? Those old habits that weren't serving you anymore are going to begin to die off, and they're going to just become like, a distant memory. But again, that can't happen without your consistency and your continual like showing up, right? And you're, on your own 2 feet. So, and yeah, like you mentioned, it is definitely a process. It's a lifelong lifestyle. So the same way that you work out and do your routine and like, work on your health, as I know that you do, your finances are, like the same thing. They require the same work and consistency and just continuing to show up even when it's hard and you don't feel like it.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, it's just, yeah, yeah, every day. And, like I mean, it's funny, like when I first start working with somebody, like, I mean, I never, this because like it's one of the first caveats is like, yeah, I'm going to give you the tools, right? But I'm also not saying this is going to be like a overnight thing.
Yep.
You will, however, have those really important breakthroughs and aha moments, right? Where you're just like, you're drawing attention to something that maybe you wouldn't have put attention into previously, right? So can you tell me one like major aha moment that you've had since we've been working together? And it doesn't necessarily have to be to do with money necessarily, but like, something that just like kind of was like, dang, I didn't realize that.
Whew. I feel like there are so many different ways that I can take this. Like one of the first things that's coming to mind is, the openness that I have now towards money. Like it still scares me. And I'm still in a state of more or less like living paycheck to paycheck. But one, I can, see the light at the end of the tunnel, which I don't know if I ever saw before. I always just was like, okay, we're just going to have to keep going this way. And this is just going to be a lifestyle, which sucks. But the other thing that is coming up for me is, I recently had a conversation with my boyfriend. It's new in our relationship about money. And I was able to walk away from that conversation without crying, without yelling, without either of us storming off into respective timeouts. And that for me was like mind blowing, or I don't
Hey,
know, whatever.
mind breaking works too. That makes sense.
Because every other conversation I've had with a male in my life who has been privy to some form, to some aspect of my finances, it's always been, Meredith, you don't know what you're doing. Meredith, we don't know if we fully trust you. And I leave feeling mentally and emotionally exhausted. I leave crying. The other party leaves angry or frustrated in some way. And so to be able to have this conversation with my boyfriend, and it's just our relationship is very new, but just to have like that baseline conversation and both of us to be able to come at it from a level of respect and me not feeling defensive was massive for me.
Yeah, when you told me that a few weeks ago, we had talked about it, obviously. And it reminded me, like I told you, of when I had first gotten together with my now husband, but at the time when we were first dating. And I actually had I was in a relationship where I wasn't codependent, right? Like I was not codependent anymore, ever. And that was huge, a big deal. But the bigger deal was that I was able to have a confident conversation, an assertive conversation, and ask the right questions. The questions where the answers were important to my future with that person, right? So, it you're coming a long way. And here's the thing, you know how I feel about the compound effect, right? So like, again, you're doing all these things that may not seem very significant. Like, yes, having that conversation is like a big deal, and like, you were able to do this and feel good about it. But it feels a lot less significant than it really is, because you've just done something that your future self is going to be so grateful for, because you've now stepped into the prepping, the planning, the getting ahead of something as opposed to responsive. You're actually proactive. Those things are more meaningful than, crushing massive debt and doing this big mountain and, mountain climb like you're getting ready to do here in a few months. But, like it's huge. I mean, that is the mountain, the Grand Slam, in my opinion.
And it feels really good.
Yeah. So, and then ultimately, just to take it further, future jobs or future ways of you generating revenue, right? You'll be able to price yourself, know what you're worth, be confident in your services, and not have to discount yourself. Those kinds of things are going to compound to millions in the future. And I know that's it. It's easy for me to say, because I just know it's going to happen. Share a little bit with us about the message. I'm going to pivoting, that you share with your podcast. Talk about your podcast.
I'm hesitating because right now my podcast, I feel like, is on the cusp of a major transition. And I'm, still working through, does this make sense? But ultimately, my podcast is for the woman who has spent her life checking the boxes. She has done what has been expected of her. And now she has reached a point where she wants to live a life for herself. And that doesn't mean you can't check boxes, but are you checking boxes that are actually in alignment with you? Right. So, for example, I grew up, being the good girl, checked the box of going to college, met someone, got engaged, got a job that was especially in my wheelhouse as a woman, got engaged, got married, bought a house, did all the things, and my husband died. And, that's not to say if you check the boxes, something terrible is going to happen. But, for me, it was a wake up of, you can check all the boxes, and that doesn't mean you're going to have this magical ending. Right. You have to figure out what works for you. And so now I'm very much in the space of what's working for me. What do I feel called to do? What type of life do I really want to be living? And, over this whole process, especially with starting my podcast, I am very much leaning into that, but I'm also starting to realize how important it is to talk about my loss, the full raw, how this loss kind of came to be. And, what is my life worth to me? What boxes do I just not want to even bother with a checklist, or is it I get to define what's on that checklist and what boxes I get to check, which is having my own business, leaving teaching, with my boyfriend. I can't predict the future, of course, but are we in alignment in terms of the same lifestyle and goals? And do I have a partner that is going to support me and build me up and let me chase my dreams? Or am I going to continue to put myself into this very small box where I'm allowing other people to make choices for me? So the podcast is encompassing all of that. But the transition might be a little bit more focused on this loss aspect and how to kind of come out of that loss.
I really think that that's in my own opinion, that's an easy transition and a pivot. You're just kind of adding a segment really and making, that like a focal point, which makes perfect sense to me. Like ultimately, like, as you know, what I do and what I teach is about the pain that I previously had. Right. So, and that's how I help others is through sharing my pain. It's now my purpose and my drive and, my obsession. And so I help people that way. That's how I assist in guiding. And I think that there's, you know, I guess if you're in any kind of like service based business or service based mission, right, where you have this mission, this calling, there's no possible way that you'd be able to really see that through unless it was something that you yourself went through. And and when I say see that through, I mean have those on the other end, the receiving end, be successful and really like winning with whatever that mission is that you drove towards them. So, yeah, I mean, I feel good about it. That's just my own personal opinion. But and so you did a workshop the other day. I mentioned it a little bit in the academy, which you're considered an expert because you're working with me one-to-one. I mean, when a person's working with me one-to-one, they become more of an expert in my program. And but what I like is that we align your expertise when it comes to the money stuff, because you not that you're a full expert, but you are learning a way that is a simplified system that is proven. Okay. So by doing that, you're also aligning your own expertise, your jam, your zone of genius, right? And you obviously you shared something on your podcast that really triggered me, and it was podcast number 49. And it was talking about waiting for the perfect time, and I felt like it was super aligned, obviously, with what I do too, because this will happen sometimes where someone will jump in and want to work with me, but they're not quite ready. Like I'm more ready than they are, and that happens a lot. To coaches in general or someone that's working with people, right? Where that person doesn't want it as much as you may want it for them, and that's not going to work. It's not going to fly, right? So I'd say any time such as now is always the perfect time, but it's all in perspective. So, like, it's like waiting to exhale, waiting to launch, waiting to do anything, there will never be a perfect time. So the time is always really right now. And that's based on whether you receive that as the now is now or the tomorrow is now, if that makes sense. It's like when you're actually in it, like when you're there and your feet are planted in the now is when it's the right time. And I know that sounded very philosophical, but share a little bit about it. Does it make sense to you?
Yes.
It made sense to me in my brain.
I'm with you.
The monkeys were flying around, but it's fine. They're swinging and they're just going from tree to tree, but it's cool, right? Enneagram 7 coming at you really hot right now. So talk a little bit about the perfect time, and you can align this with your current situation in your relationship and or the finances or whatever, but like, how key it is to never expect a perfect time.
Oh, that's, exactly what I was going to start with. There's never going to be a perfect time. And I say this as a recovering perfectionist, a planner. We, especially as humans, love to see what the end goal is going to be. We like to set a goal and then envision it and go for it. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But here's where I find things get murky. We then set expectations that we can't reach that goal until we've done X, Y, and Z. So, for example, in terms of, I'm going to give two examples. One was with my relationship. As a widow, wasn't sure like when I was going to start dating, if I was ever going to start dating. I made a plan. I'm going to move in March to a new state and I'm going to start over. And that's when I'm going to go on the dating apps and I'm going to meet my person, right? Well, that didn't go according to plan because I went on the apps back in December, and within a few days, I met my current boyfriend. And that has been kind of hard for me, right? Because I had this whole plan. I was going to be in X situation with my finances. I was not going to be living at my parents' house anymore. I was going to be fully on my own 2 feet. But my intuition was telling me to start before I was ready. And I did. And now I have this wonderful man. And again, I can't predict the future, but based on the foundation that we are building right now, I would be beyond lucky to have him be my life partner. But had I kept telling myself, nope, you have to wait for March, I would have missed this opportunity, especially since, turns out he lives 15 minutes from me and we've unintentionally kind of crossed paths for part of our adult life. Whereas if I had moved to Virginia like I was planning, never would have met him, right? Just never would have happened. And the same thing is to be said for you and your finances. Like, I never thought that I was ready. I figured, okay, I need to get my debt down to X amount, or I should at least understand a budget better. I should be further along in my business. Like, you name it, I was telling myself this. But, my intuition kicked in again. And Amanda just happened to cross my path in a moment where I was more open to it. And I, again, was open to the fact that I didn't have everything mapped out the way that I thought it should be. And so that again just goes back to, what in your life right now are you telling yourself you need to have checked off, mapped out in order to get to that end goal? And does that actually need to happen? Are you more prepared than you think you are? Is your intuition actually guiding you and encouraging you to take that step first? Doesn't mean it's going to end up the way that you planned. Doesn't mean you can't still go back to that original plan. Like, so for example, in the event things don't work out with my boyfriend, I can still move to Virginia, right? There's nothing stopping me, but I am open to the possibilities of what this is currently providing me with my finances. I am open to the possibilities of what I can learn. And I mean, I'm now taking on a job where I'm going to be doing somebody's books for their business, right? I don't feel like I'm the best person for that, but compared to 6 months ago, compared to even 4 months ago when I started working with Amanda, I'm in a much better space where money's not scaring me, where I know this is going to be a beneficial lesson for both myself and for the woman in her business that I'm helping. So why the hell not do it? And again, had I been waiting for the perfect time, I wouldn't be having these opportunities right now.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, it's just, I mean, perfectionism is like really one of those things. I think, even if you're not like a natural perfectionist, I think all of us, especially when we're working towards like we want to do better at something, we're always thinking of our brain is going to tell us all the ways in which we should not do it. You're not ready, you're not good enough, you don't, have the right look for that, or you know what I mean? Like you're, the inner mean girl.
Who are you
she really
to be doing
yeah.
this?
Yeah. Who in the heck do you think you are? Trust me, I go live in front of hundreds of people all the time, and I still have those moments like, why would anybody want to listen to me? And it's like, wait a minute, I've done some cool shit, like that.
I'm going through that right now. Like I said before we got on, I'm like, who am I to be, launching my program?
Yeah. And let's talk about your program since we're already 28 minutes in. Like, let's talk a little bit about that. And you can, and we're going to leave a link too, if you have a link to that program. Yes. Or, if they're supposed to reach out to you via, inbox or whatever, it doesn't really matter. But just give a quick synopsis about what you're offering for your healing. It's a 9-week program, right?
Yep, 9-week program. It's called A Guide to Healing, and it is for any woman who has been going through loss. Again, it's in reference to the losses I was mentioning earlier: divorce, loss of a pet, loss of a spouse, family member, friend, child, loss of self. And over these 9 weeks, we are going to work together both in a communal aspect, but also one-to-one, where I help you identify your loss, because yes, it's quote unquote obvious, right? Like my loss is I lost my husband, but how it's been affecting me mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. We need to really identify that. And then from there, every week, I will help build back a sense of confidence and self-love and purpose that you may not have even realized you were losing throughout this loss. And together we will really work to get you to a place where obviously you're not going to be fully healed. You're never going to move on from that loss, but you will be in a much better place to move forward. You'll be able to take that pain and use it to fuel you in some way, shape, or form. And I'm so excited to be offering this and to have this space for all of us, because loss is one of the most common things that we all share. And like you said at the beginning, Amanda, it's not something that we have to compare, right? We're not all going to experience a loss of a spouse in the same way, but we can at least be there for one another, and we can talk to one another and realize that there is so much more power in experiencing the loss together, even if they're vastly different, than it is isolating yourself and feeling you have to figure it out on your own.
Yeah, I think so many people go through trying to figure it out on their own. And like I told you before, it was the biggest mistake I've made in my life, probably, not realizing that, I was like, I'm special. I could do this, like,
Strong,
I mean, really, who was I to think that I was, that I was way above, any kind of talking to anyone, or I think my biggest thing was, if I don't talk about it, it didn't happen. And that was, wow, unacceptable. I'm not like kicking myself while I'm down, but you know what I'm saying. It just did not suit me.
Or also, who's going to want to listen to me, right? Like, I'm going through this loss, no one's going to understand, or, so many things, or nobody wants to hear about it. All the different stories that we tell us. So at least in a group like this, you might be 3 months out of your loss. You might be 6 months, a year, 10 years out.
Yeah.
But even if you are further out from your loss, it doesn't mean that it's not affecting you in some way. So let's, again, come together and really figure out, is it holding us back? Or if it's helping propel us forward, can we propel ourselves even further?
Yeah, no doubt. No, this is so awesome. And I'm so glad that you're offering this, because, and your delivery is really good. You get me every time. I'm just like, dang, you nailed that, and we just really need that kind of support with anything that we're trying to get better at. But, I've seen it happen so many times where someone has gone through something super painful and they didn't get a support system or a community around them to rally. And like you said, it seems as though no one's going to want to listen, but we'll be dang surprised that there's a lot more help and people that are just open arms waiting. You just have to bring it, So we will leave it looks like we've got quite a bit of the information in the show notes, freaking podcaster over here. Like, seriously, in the comments, because we are live in the community. We are not, it almost feels like we're interviewing for one of our podcasts again, doesn't it?
I know, that's what it does.
like I forget where I'm at. Where am I at today? I don't know.
What am I doing?
What am I doing?
What's my name?
Yeah, I have no idea. And what was that?
I'm going to, can I even drop it in the comments? Maybe I can't. I'll at least send it to you in the private chat, the link that people can fill out it's like a little survey. And then from there, I can send you the key information, but I'll at least give you the link and then you can, share it.
Yes, absolutely. No, we can put it right in the comments as soon as this live ends. So it's awesome. Definitely going to get your wins working with Meredith. So just a quick reminder, obviously I've announced it already, but I'm announcing it again. The masterclass is happening next week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday on the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. And it's a game changer, life-changing coaching happening in there. So I will leave the link to that, but you can find that anywhere. And if you want to know a little bit more about it or have any questions, you can certainly reach out to me on DMs, whatever you want to do. So Meredith, you're freaking awesome. And I will see you very soon. We'll be chatting.
Thanks so much, Amanda.
All right. Thank you. See you later, everyone.
Bye-bye.